Welcome back to the Triple Option.
Thank you, Roy Ogletree.
I'm Roy Ogletree alongside co-host or owner or what would you even call yourself? Lord of the show?
Let's do that.
Okay.
I'm fresh off of this week's House of the Dragon, so.
Yeah. Lord of the show, Paul Catalina, Lord of the Realm.
The
Prince who was promised.
The Prince who was promised. What else did they say?
Khaleesi? Wait.
No, that's not it.
Oh.
Craig is the Khaleesi of our show because he's the dragon. I'm
Khaleesi mother, like dragon mother.
Yeah. I'm more of the Eddard Stark. Eventually I'll get beheaded.
Yeah.
I'm the most famous actor on the show, but I'm not going to make it past season 1.
Man, I really love Sean Bean in this. Oh no. Is it Sean Bean?
Yeah, Sean Bean.
Sean Bean, yeah.
Yeah, Sean Bean. Lord of the Rings,
Also died in that.
National treasure.
Did not die. I thought he was going to die. Did not die in that.
Did not die in that. So last week at SEC Media Days, and it's just not a topic that we didn't get to, but Trey Zune, an offensive lineman at Texas A&M, said, what's the big change between Mike Elko and Jimbo Fisher? And he said accountability, which that is the I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed of. So
player answers,
right? That's one of the worst things you can say is that there was no accountability. And that came down from the top. And if you're wondering, here I'll translate for you. Jimbo hired an offensive coordinator to call Jimbo's plays, not to call his plays and do like what everybody wanted to do was innovate.
A shot in the arm.
Yes. So he's like, here's the playbook. You're going to call the plays. So basically, Bobby Petrino's just up there reading, like, all right, here's what we're going to do.
Why sprint?
Yeah. And then Jimbo's like, no.
X flag.
No.
Yeah.
Do whatever.
All go.
Yeah.
Running back left, running back right.
Yeah. So, but Jimbo Fisher, when people asked him about like, hey, do you worry that your system's been figured out or it doesn't work anymore, it needs updating? And he's like, no, the system works. And it's the players that have to do it. And you're like, wow, that is a starting lack of accountability on your part. So when you refuse to hold yourself accountable, that quite often trickles down to everyone else. Because when finger pointing starts, it's a never-ending circle, right? If you've ever been in an environment where you have somebody that's like, well, hey, could you do this? Like, well, that's not my job.
Yeah.
And then everybody underneath that person will find a way to push it off on a person lower beneath them until there's this one poor sap at the bottom of shit mountain.
Yeah,
right?
well, until it gets all the way back up to it circularly gets all the way.
Exactly.
It didn't get done, and so now it goes back to your boss.
the big rock got pushed back up the hill.
Exactly.
And you're like, how did this happen?
Sisyphus won.
Because this little guy here got mad enough to where he's like, no more, or he left. And you're like,
yeah,
like, hey, where's the what is this gun? And like, well, Tito's gone. Like, what happened to Tito? Oh, we gave him too much work and not enough money, so he quit and went somewhere where he was appreciated. That's what happened. Jimbo got so focused on, he was clear, like, he didn't change the offense from Florida State to A&M at all. You could watch 2016 Florida State and 2022 A&M, and it's the same formations with lesser players. And he was getting good players at A&M. Yeah, well,
that was
2016 was post Jameis, but even 2013, like he was doing all this, and then he never got his Jameis. Now, one of the things I've come to learn about Jameis is a fantastic teammate and a leader of a team who holds a lot of people accountable. And if you've ever watched Jameis and Jimbo, Jameis was the only quarterback who Jimbo would yell at, and Jameis would go, no. And guess what happened? Jameis lost one game under Jimbo. One, a disastrous Rose Bowl against Oregon that, started the tumble down the hill. Jimbo Fisher when you don't hold yourself accountable, then all that happens with the players. It happens with the coaching staff. Mike Elko comes in, and he's accountable. And now the players are like, well, this is nice. Somebody's hearing me. And that's why I'll make a bold prediction that they'll be a remarkably efficient team this year. I don't know what their record's going to be, but I think you'll watch A&M games and go, they're good.
Yeah, well, is it now what that player was saying is that is he holding himself accountable or is – because what you're saying is Jimbo didn't hold himself accountable. We all know that. Is it that or was that player saying that he's holding – Elko is now holding the players accountable?
I think he's holding the players accountable, but I do think that also speaks to the fact that the reason that Jimbo didn't hold the players accountable is because he wasn't able to do it for himself. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. I think he was saying, and I think he's saying also like Mike Elko has some accountability. And look, when Mike Elko left A&M and went to Duke, they kind of spiraled out of control because the defense was on lock with Mike Elko. Garrett, you'll remember. Mm-hmm. And then it became not that way, even though it was still never that bad. It
wasn't the same, though.
It wasn't the same because it wasn't as efficient because, again, okay, well, here's who I'm going to go high. Like, the other thing that Jimbo Fisher did, which was just amazing, was he said, okay, if you think that I'm a dick, I'm going to bring in Bobby Petrino and Steve Addazio and DJ Durkin, and you're going to say, like, oh, like, that's a coaching staff full of guys who are, like, just jerks. Like, they're hard-ass dudes that they've had success. Like, there's no doubt they've had success, but they all have something that's happened, especially DJ Durkin. That's really bad.
Like, big yikes on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So now you've got a coaching staff of, like, Mike Elko and young guys and Colin Klein and, like, the people they have. Yeah. Like, it's a shot in the arm. So, Garrett, look, you're our resident SEC guy because of LSU. I think A&M's going to look efficient. I don't know what that means record-wise, but their schedule is actually not terrible overall. So I think you're going to see a team that looks remarkably efficient. Whether that means they're going to win a whole lot or not, they might still be kind of on the bubble of being good, but I think they're going to look better in being whatever they are than they had the last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they're going to have like the stout playmakers up front on the offensive line like they've had. I think there's going to be a lot of turnover in there, but when you get down to it, I think Carter Wigman inside this offense, kind of like we touched on the other day, I think he's going to be super efficient at Colin Klein's offense. And then you just when you are able to get a guy, that's the thing to me. It's like I don't think we really understand having Colin Klein's offense in this with the skill set players that A&M has. If you could get Reuben Owens and them flowing, they could be really good. I think they're really going to be a defensive-oriented team first. I think they're going to be really sound. I think they're going to look, honestly, kind of like an old-school Big Ten type of team where we're going to get gritty, smash mouth. We're going to do the physical things and beat you by being more sound and technical than necessarily out-talenting people. And I think that's really going to be the difference in what makes A&M tick this season.
I think Mike Elko can raise a program ceiling. Like a good coach can only raise a program ceiling by about 2 games. Mm-hmm. That being said, he got Duke to where they were going to. Their ceiling was what I think
A&M's got a high ceiling.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Duke's ceiling was just because of the amount of talent. And this is no shot at them. And, of course, they have players drafted, and now their quarterback is going to go be the quarterback of Notre Dame and so on. And so they had talent, but he's going to Notre Dame, right? He went to Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, he's at Notre Dame.
Yeah. And so the ceiling of that team was where I think he got them to last season. And if he doesn't get injured, if their quarterback Riley Leonard doesn't get injured, maybe they're even better than that.
They probably, if Riley Leonard
beat Florida State,
they probably beat Florida State.
Yeah, probably. So there may be 1 or 2.
As a matter of fact, he got hurt on a drive where they were about to score a touchdown, and then they put the backup in, and they went straight backwards.
Yeah, I
think
think
they didn't get your field goal. So
I think Elko, because of the way that he coaches, is like can raise a mediocre team to being efficient and good. Some coaches are able to do that. And there's a sliding scale of this. Like, could Kirby Smart probably like raise your team 4 or 5 wins from what they were going to be? Who knows? But I think that what Elko brings, the grittiness, toughness to it, and this is just all, in my mind's eye, what I see is there's no science behind this other than feeling. And I think that Elko is that kind of coach where it will go up a couple of games because of just how hard-nosed they play. But with A&M, because of the talent, that could mean that they run into 9 wins.
Yeah.
What I envision them being, when a new coach comes in, there's always the possibility that, oh, no, it didn't go right. We didn't install correctly, and we're 4-8. That being said, Elko gets them because of his coaching ability and the way that he coaches, I think gets them bowl eligible first year.
Yeah.
And that's, again, totally based on feeling alone of what I've seen from him in the past. I'd have to go back and look at his record when he first got to Duke, but you're also you're starting from a different baseline than you are when you go to A&M and the recruiting and people that he was able to keep and so on and so forth.
A&M, and this is true, this is not hyperbole, this is not Aggie talk. Their ceiling is whatever they want it to be, but they also have to be the ones who get out of their own way. They have to do it their way and not somebody else's. I think that's where they've gone wrong. I'll repeatedly say it. When you try to be someone else, you'll get close. You might get close, and they got close. They got close to being someone else.
But they weren't trying to be someone else. They were trying to be Texas.
Yeah, exactly. But they're trying to be Texas. That's who they were trying to be. And then they were trying to be kind of be Alabama and Texas together. Yeah. And you have to be the best version of you. And that's why I think Mike Elko can help them get to where you're the best version of you. We're going to get Jimbo Fisher. He can do that. The idea that, he can do it at FSU, we can do it here. Well, no one's ever done it there. Jimbo Fisher rebuilt FSU, but he had a dude with 3 national titles that built the program into legendary status. So it's not like he did all the legwork. A&M was needing somebody to do all the legwork to get them,
Jimbo inherited an elite culture at Florida State.
Yeah.
And he did. Fan base and so on and so forth, care for the program.
Yeah, I mean, look, A&M kid, but they have, people know what it tastes like. Mm-hmm. He had if he was a chef and taking over for another one, they're like, listen, you better keep that lasagna recipe the same. Or if you change it, it better be additive to it. We better be
more oregano.
Vito never used this much ricotta. It's much better this way. Those kind of things. He had that bar to clear. All right, as we wrap up, let's talk Connor Stallion's documentary.
I was hoping to play the game.
No, we don't have time to play the game. We gotta work on the game. We gotta work on the game. We gotta maybe do a dry run with the game. We'll do a dry run. So
this is just gonna become a bit. Sorry, it's hard to Matt Damon.
We'll do it. We'll do it next week. Which Royd will be the first show of next week because I will not be here on Monday. Just so you know, we might as well have not been here yesterday because of our stupid computer. But whatever, we're gonna get that upgraded here soon. I promise. I hope so. I promise.
Again, when you just add my name to the CrowdStrike lawsuit.
We will. I'll make sure.
Whenever you
I'll make sure.
Sign up for that.
But Connor Stalions has a documentary coming out, Untold, which they've done. Some are good and some are a waste of time. That's my other problem with it. It's a really quick turnaround.
Documentaries should take years.
Yes.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's the free solo thing where you're filming an act of somebody doing something. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go surf the biggest wave possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to climb the tallest mountain. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But in a research-based
to go
backstory,
back,
not everything is out about the Connor Stalions thing.
I just watched last night a 3-part documentary series on HBO called The Black Widower, which was really good.
I haven't even heard of that.
Oh, dude. So it's about this dude, Utah and in Las Vegas, that's been married 6 times. 4 of those wives are dead.
Oh.
1 died of liver cancer. 1 died of a heart condition. And 2 were killed. And he got off for killing the first one. And the second one it's a whole thing. It's fascinating. Like it's fascinating. It's really good. And all this stuff goes back into the 80s, like the late 70s, early 80s, until literally a year ago when the case was finalized and this thing is wrapped up. So like there's years of research done on this thing, years, as opposed to months of research done on Connor Stallions.
Connor Stallions was fired like 6 months ago.
Yes. And now there's already a documentary about it. And here's the other thing. You're not going to get Jim Harbaugh to talk about it.
No, he couldn't be bothered.
Yeah. You're not going to get any of the current coaches to talk about it.
No, they may still be sanctioned.
You're not going to get any of the other coaches to talk about it.
From the other teams that let him roam the sidelines?
I mean, they might have some of that, but you got to be careful because that might come across as sour grapes. So unless you're going to have Connor Stallions tell his story and tell it honestly, which I don't think he has the capability to do because, again, he's obsessed with Michigan and won't want to do anything to hurt Michigan.
Right.
I don't know how good this could be.
I haven't watched the preview of it, and like we've said before, those Untold documentaries aren't in depth. They're very surface level documentaries. They're fun. I have seen from the ones that I've seen, they're fun and look good, and it has that Netflix sheen on it, and you can just pop it on your TV and stream it in 50 minutes, and you ingest it and nothing more. It's really, really baseline documentary filmmaking, not to besmirch the name of whoever is like running those shows.
It's
an entertainment documentary more than it is
they're not as good as like the hockey one about the mafia don that
and it's not even as good as the early 30 for 30s.
Yeah,
which I think are kind of, to me, like the paragon of this kind of sports documentary.
Yeah.
Now it's not like Hoop Dreams or anything like that, but you're not going to. And especially if they paid him to talk to, which is a whole other thing that some of these documentaries do. Oh, we're not going to get him to talk, so we got to give him money,
Well, they traded, I think with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow in particular, they needed them on the documentary. If there was no Tebow and no Urban Meyer, then why am I watching that?
Right.
Right?
I go back and forth on what you should do on, if it's journalistic integrity or if it's we just have we need to make this documentary and we cannot make it without these voices. So I don't know.
So this is how we're going to make our money on this.
Right, exactly.
And I would be willing to bet that there are people who worked in that documentary that are like, well, there's a lot more here. And I'm sure they asked and were told you want me in this. You want me in this, then I'm not going to do that. We're not like Urban Meyer. I promise you Urban Meyer's agents came back with these are the things we're not talking about.
Right. This is, or we talked about that. I need you to cut that. Somehow had editorial view.
Yeah.
Of it,
editorial,
The Connor Stallions in general, though, too, it is such a crazy story, but in the end, to me, it's kind of nothing because they still won the championship. And then nothing happened?
Okay, so here's the thing I think is also fascinating about it. Once they got caught truly doing it, that, even with Connor Stallions gone, Michigan's opponents were pulling out all this stuff to make sure that their signs were not the same week to week.
And they still bowled over. I mean, they had problems with Alabama, but then they still kind of just destroyed Washington.
Yeah, so...
in a couple of those games that the coach now, I'm forgetting his name, the defensive coordinator that took over for Harbaugh, that was the interim head coach. There was a couple of times in there where they nearly blew a couple of those games, but they ended up winning by 2 scores most of the time. It feels like and you call me an Astros homer or whatever. The reason to me that the Astros still ended up going to 3 more World Series and winning another World Series, that's kind of how I feel about the Michigan thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you say, oh, well, you're just rewarding cheating. No, I don't condone what they did. I'm just saying we didn't do anything about it in the time. And so now you could not go to any Michigan fan from here until forever and be like, oh, you didn't deserve that championship. That'd be like, kiss the ring? What do you want to talk? What do you want to talk about?
The Astros
I saw them win.
The Astros is a good comparison to it because had they never won another one,
Yeah.
that would be an albatross on the franchise until they did.
Yeah.
But the fact that
It'd be like a Black Sox scandal
what,
or something.
What it kind of shows you is most of these things, you don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
You'll just be fine. And then by doing what they were doing, it was just excessive and
silly
and thumbing their nose at the game.
Yeah.
And then their response to it, because they knew they were going to be really good again and didn't really need it, was like was just like they Jim Crane especially was the biggest jerk about it in the world. And so is Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
Like those two were at the forefront of like, dude, just take your lumps.
Yeah.
Take your lumps. Be glad that Bud Selig wasn't the commissioner because Bud would have hit down harder than Rob Manfred would have.
I have a theory that they couldn't really a whole other thing.
Well,
it was like with the Red Sox and everything else, they couldn't like.
Look, the only reason the Red Sox scandal wasn't as bad is because they didn't have the same room.
Yeah.
Like Fenway's old and small. Like Minute Maid Park has all these rooms that nobody ever uses.
I also think the reason that the Astros thing was like so like, and it's still because it was so stupid.
Yeah.
We're going to say hit a trash can. It's so dumb that everybody's latched onto it.
Yeah, the Red Sox weren't hitting trash cans. They were just like stealing signs. And then
Apple Watch, yeah.
And the Apple Watch. And then when they got rid of the Apple Watch, then they were just like, well, we're
still
just,
win.
We're just going to signal it into the guy on second or the third base coach.
Yeah.
So that's what they were doing, which that makes it like a little easier. I think that's why they got away with it because like everything had kind of already happened. So they were like, well, we're not banging on a trash can, so it's not that egregious. Apple Watch is over, right? Yeah. And then they just kind of had to do it the old-fashioned way plus. Like they have the video, so they know the signs. So now they're just signaling into everybody what it is.
Right. No, I mean, I've come up. So stupid. That's the most embarrassing thing is that it was so dumb. Honestly,
yeah.
I'm not really even that mad about the thing. Well, I'm just like that's so stupid.
That's where like
do it something. Do cooler. Be cooler about it.
Yeah. And then like it
just
comes out about like bang on the trash can, and then the Astros like, oh yeah, how can you prove that? And then like every game,
you got a video.
Yeah, all your games are on TV, and there's a mic in the dugout. So
stupid. All that to say, I don't know what we're gonna get from this Connor Stallions thing, mostly because it just is such a quick turnaround. Not everything has come out about that case. Is there still like lawsuits going on about that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken there.
Yeah, I mean there's still
stuff going on.
Yeah,
there's still stuff going on there. And like also Jim Harbaugh dipped. He could not be, I guarantee you he could not be bothered whatsoever. He's like, I gotta see if we got wide receivers that we can throw to.
If he's in this documentary, I'll pass out.
They would have put him in the preview, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way. So again, it's not as good. Here's what I'll tell you. Untold Connor Stallions, without all those players, is the Sony Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
That's
the
what
whip
it is.
of Spider-Man is somewhere.
Like, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, he's there. Like, no. I mean, we're not going to talk about him directly. But we'll do origin stories for all these people. But
the people you don't care about if Spider-Man is not involved.
Yeah.
You do not care about them if Spider-Man is not there.
Yeah, but we're still going to put him in a thing. And it's so dumb because it'd be like going into a restaurant and they're like, yes, I will have the spaghetti and meatballs, please. And like, we have sauce. And you're like, well, I mean, I like the sauce, but I really want the spaghetti meatballs. They're like, well, we've got sauce and we're going to tell you the history of our sauce. We're like, well, when do I get spaghetti meatballs? That's a different restaurant.
Yeah.
It's different altogether.
What did you think you came here for?
Yeah.